The deliberation and the decision. The Galactic Council chamber hummed with tense energy. The holodisplays scattered around the room painted a picture of a crisis, the epicenter of which was the Veritan Empire. At the heart of the chamber, holographic representatives of diverse civilizations from across the galaxy deliberated in an array of languages, subtitled in real time across the council chamber's displays. The crisis had been coined the Veritan Affair. The bombing of a major interstellar trade hub, a gruesome act traced back to Veritan space, but without a clear perpetrator, had triggered a cascade of events that shook the very foundations of the galactic community. And it was left to the Galactic Council to make a decision that would shape the course of events. After hours of deliberation and negotiation, the decision was reached. A wave of silence spread across the chamber as the council's adjudicator rose to announce the judgment. We have reached a decision. The human ships shall be the peacekeepers in Veritan space. Their task shall be to aid in the operation to identify those responsible for the bombing, ensure safety of travel, and conduct routine ship searches for any contraband and nefarious items. As the words reverberated through the chamber, expressions varied from relief to shock, and in the case of the Veritans, clear displeasure. Yet, the decision was made. The humans had offered their assistance willingly, painting themselves as the neutral and trustworthy party. No one had strong grounds to object. The Council's decision was followed by an immediate recall of ambassadors from Veritan space. Meanwhile, human ships began to mobilize, moving swiftly into Veritan territory, like pawns advancing on an interstellar chessboard. They strategically took up positions around Veritan's planets, trade routes, and hyperspace waypoints. The peacekeeping mission had begun, but to some, it felt more like the tightening of a grip on Veritan space. The humans were diplomatic, professional, yet subtly assertive in their operations. Their ships, resplendent in the gleaming colors of the United Human Federation, were imposing figures against the backdrop of the cold, dark expanse of space. The Veritans, accustomed to their autonomy, watched helplessly as the peacekeepers took charge. A grudging sense of acceptance slowly took root, but beneath the surface, tension simmered. As this transformation unfolded, another plot was set into motion in the shadows. A stolen Veritan ship, under human command, prepared for an operation that could drastically tilt the balance of the unfolding crisis. The objective was clear: frame the Veritans as the aggressors, deepening their crisis and thereby tightening human control. From the command center of the Veritan Empire to the highest echelons of the Galactic Council, all eyes watched the Veritan space with bated breath. As the galaxy found itself on the brink of a major upheaval, only time would reveal the true victor in this dangerous game of power and politics. However, one thing was certain. The Galactic Council's decision had set in motion a chain of events that could irreversibly change the fate of the Veritans, the humans, and indeed, the whole galactic community. The players had made their moves, now it was the time for the game to unfold. A game of shadows. The vast expanse of Veritan space was eerily calm. The once bustling trade routes, vibrant with multitudes of ships and echoes of vibrant conversations, had muted into a tense quietude. With the human peacekeeping fleet patrolling the territory, an unsettling peace had descended upon the Veritan Empire. Their imposing vessels, now familiar fixtures across the skies of Veritan worlds, were carrying out their duties without incident. Routine ship searches, control of hyperspace waypoints, and a reassuring presence along the trade routes had begun to restore a semblance of order and calm in the wake of the crisis. However, beneath this facade of peace, a sinister plan was brewing. A stolen Veritan ship under human command had laid dormant in the farthest reaches of Veritan space, far from prying eyes. The crew, a select group of human special forces trained in Veritan operational procedures and language, were preparing for their mission. A carefully orchestrated assault on their own ship to further incriminate the Veritans in the eyes of the galactic community. The moment of action arrived. The stolen Veritan ship powered up its engines, veering into the path of an unsuspecting human vessel. Communications were swiftly jammed, leaving the targeted vessel isolated, unable to call for immediate help. On board the stolen Veritan ship, cloaked in the abyss of deep space, the stolen Veritan frigate, now under human command, lay dormant. The crew, a cadre of human special operatives, studied the approaching human cruiser with laser-focused intensity. The moment they'd been meticulously trained for was about to unfold. The screens blinked with real-time data, showing their target growing steadily larger, its hull glowing under the spectral light of distant stars. The tension in the frigate's command center was palpable, electric with anticipation. "Power up," ordered the commander, a man named Diaz. The ship hummed into life, its systems pulsating with energy as they prepared for the incoming assault. Shields up. Weapons ready. A symphony of affirmative acknowledgments answered his orders. With the quiet intensity of a hunting predator, the stolen Veritan ship veered off its course to intercept the human cruiser. Diaz glanced at his weapons officer, a woman named Lennox, and gave a decisive nod. "Fire," he commanded. The ship's weapon systems, primed and ready, unleashed a blistering barrage of phaser fire and plasma torpedoes. Space around the human cruiser erupted in brilliant explosions, the vessel staggering under the sudden assault. A visible shudder rippled through its hull as it struggled to maintain its integrity against the unexpected onslaught. "Cease jamming," Diaz ordered as the human cruiser reeled from their attack. Almost immediately, a distress call blared from their comms, frantic voices pleading for help as they came under fire from what they believed to be a rogue Veritan ship. The stolen ship continued to assail the crippled human cruiser, but with far less potency now. It was a charade, a convincing display of sustained aggression designed to convince the incoming rescuers of Veritan hostility. As soon as sensors detected approaching vessels, Diaz initiated the final phase of their plan. "Lifecraft, now," he barked. The crew sprang into action, swiftly abandoning their stations to rush toward the lifecraft docked along the frigate's side. The commander was the last to leave the bridge. He paused at the controls, programming a delay into the ship's auto-fire sequence. The stolen Veritan ship, now deserted, would continue its assault, further cementing the illusion of Veritan aggression. With the lifecraft safely away from the frigate, the crew watched as the ships arrived at the scene of their manufactured conflict. They had timed it perfectly. The stolen Veritan frigate fired its weapons again, right on cue, and then, moments later, the human cruiser retaliated. On board the human ship, the impact was staggering. The stolen Veritan ship shattered into 1,000 fragments, creating a dazzling, if chilling, spectacle of destruction. The crew watched from the lifecraft as they zoomed away, their mission a resounding success. A perfect ruse executed flawlessly, setting the stage for a monumental shift in galactic power dynamics. Aboard their lifecraft, heading toward the beleaguered human cruiser, the special operatives couldn't help but feel a cold satisfaction. The Veritans had been dealt a crippling blow, one they might never recover from, and the galactic chessboard had been dramatically upturned. The human crew aboard the stolen ship had already evaluated, leaving only the Veritan crew on board to perish and take the blame. In the confusion of battle and with the sensors of all the ships overloaded, the lifecraft silently docked with the human ship. The whole event was a brilliantly executed deception, a silent manipulation that further pushed the Veritans into the villain's role. As the dust settled, news of the incident quickly spread across the galaxy. The Galactic Council, the Human Federation, and all other civilizations stood in shock as the Veritans were accused of a direct attack on a human vessel. The Veritans, stunned and bewildered, could only watch in despair as their predicament worsened. The Veritan ship that had arrived at the scene of the attack confirmed the human narrative of an unprovoked Veritan assault, unintentionally and unknowingly driving the final nail into their own species' coffin. The Veritans were entangled in a game where all the cards seemed stacked against them, and they didn't even know it. This new incident was just the latest move in a grand cosmic chess match where they, unfortunately, were the pawns. The Veritans' fall. The Veritans' fall was swift, like a bright star collapsing into a black hole, consuming itself in a violent, uncontrollable implosion. The Galactic Council, their trust in the Veritans shattered by the seemingly irrefutable evidence of the assault, issued a harsh decree. The Veritan Armada was ordered to stand down. All military operations, from interstellar patrols to internal security missions, were to be halted immediately. Their fleet, once a symbol of their might and power, now sat dormant, floating like ghost ships in the vast expanse of Veritan space. The sight of these mighty vessels, stripped of their purpose, was a poignant reminder of the humiliation suffered by the Veritans. The silence in the Veritan corridors of power was deafening, a chilling testament to the dire straits they found themselves in. News of the incident spread through the cosmos like wildfire, with each galactic race taking note of the rapid change in the political landscape. The humans, now seen as the victims and peacekeepers, were reassigned to replace the Veritans as the Galactic Council's wardens. The sanctions imposed on the Veritans were severe. Their representation in the Galactic Council was suspended, diplomatic travel limited to dignitaries and their families. Trade sanctions were put in place, a harsh blow to an empire that thrived on commerce. The Veritans were isolated, their once bustling ports silent and empty. They were trapped in a gilded cage of their own making, or so it seemed. Meanwhile, the humans wasted no time in capitalizing on the situation. Their fleet moved into strategic positions within Veritan space, solidifying their influence and control. They stepped into the role of peacekeepers and security enforcers with apparent ease, a silent testament to their meticulous planning and foresight. In the midst of this upheaval, however, the Veritins were not entirely alone. Some races within the Galactic Council saw the situation for what it was, a blatant power play. There were whispers of doubt, of dissent, but these were drowned out by the chorus of outrage against the Veritins. To the Veritins, this turn of events was nothing short of catastrophic. Their once prized reputation lay in tatters, and their empire was on the brink of collapse. They were a race defeated, their spirit and resolve tested like never before. Yet, the Veritins were a proud people. They would not bow down, not without a fight. Secret meetings were held in the shadows, whispers of a plan to retaliate against the humans. Yet, the odds seemed insurmountable. With their military crippled, and their people demoralized, their chances of success were slim. However, there was one thing that the Veritins still had in their possession: knowledge. They knew their territory like the back of their hand, every star, every planet, every hidden nook and cranny. As the galaxy watched, they braced themselves for the next chapter. The Veritins had been defeated, yes, but they were far from out. The galaxy had seen many empires fall, only to rise again. Would the Veritins manage to do the same, or was this truly the end of their era? Only time would tell. Resilience and Resolve. A summary of the dramatic events that had unfolded was broadcast throughout the galaxy. It began with the heinous bombing within the Galactic Council, the damning security footage implicating Veritins in the act, and the subsequent investigation that pointed fingers at a rogue faction within the Veritin race. The intense negotiations at the Galactic Council that resulted in human ships taking up peacekeeping roles within Veritin territory were also recapped. The explosive assault on the human ship by the stolen Veritin vessel was then detailed, accompanied by chilling footage of the human ship's distress call echoing through space. The eventual arrival of a Veritin ship and human vessel, and the subsequent destruction of the rogue Veritin ship at the hands of the human fleet, were presented as evidence of the Veritins' transgressions. With the damning corroboration by the other Veritin ship that witnessed the unprovoked attack, the fate of the Veritins seemed sealed. The repercussions for the Veritins were monumental. Their military forces were ordered to stand down, their representation within the Galactic Council was suspended indefinitely, and crippling sanctions were imposed on them. Veritin space, once a bustling hub of activity, had grown ominously silent. Meanwhile, human ships took over strategic positions within Veritin territory, taking up the mantle of peacekeepers and law enforcement, further consolidating their newfound power and control. The universe watched as the tides turned, the balance of power shifted, and a new era seemed to dawn. Despite this grim situation, the Veritins refused to bow down. Behind closed doors, they began to strategize, their resolve unyielding. They understood their territory, knew their people, and despite the demoralization and loss, they weren't ready to accept defeat just yet. Rumblings of a counter-strategy began to echo in the hallowed halls of the Veritin Command Center, a desperate hope amidst the despair. And thus, the stage was set for the next chapter in this galactic saga. A proud race brought to its knees, a rising power seizing control, and a universe watching the drama unfold with bated breath. The Veritins, battered but unbroken, were preparing to fight back, while the humans, triumphant and strategic, were ready to cement their position of power. The echoes of this cosmic power play continue to reverberate through the vast emptiness of space. In the grand scheme of the universe, this was but a speck of dust, a fleeting moment. Yet, to the inhabitants of the Galactic Council's numerous member worlds, it was a saga of resilience and resolve, of treachery and deceit, of power and politics. The story was far from over, the final chapter yet to be written. And as the universe continued its celestial dance, all eyes remained fixated on the unfolding events, wondering what the morrow would bring.